the night wore on, she was met with more of the same: a hit and run in Buffalo, an assault in Fort Laramie, a home invasion in Cheyenne, to men robbing a liquor store in Pine Bluffs. These were not just crimes happening in real time. They were ones that had happened years ago. It was nearly midnight when Maggie Walker got off the phone with her last caller, a woman who had just reported being followed home from the grocery store by a man in a pickup truck. When she turned into her driveway, the driver stopped, got out, and started walking toward her. Terrified, she locked herself in the house and called the police. As Maggie listened, she heard the sound of the approaching footsteps, the pounding on the door, the screams of the woman and her children, the thud of a body hitting the floor, and then silence. It sounded like it was happening right here, Maggie said into the dead air. She felt sick. This wasn't normal, not by a long shot. But this was a small market radio station. She didn't know what else to do with these calls. So she played elevator music until the line went dead and then took the next call. On the other end of the line was a man. "Hi, 911, he said. "I need to report a crime." His voice was slurred. He smelled like he was drunk, like he needed a shower. "Dispatch is busy right now," Maggie told him gently. "Can I help you?" "No, I have to talk to dispatch." "It's urgent." He hung up. Maggie tried to call back, but the line was dead. She chalked it up to another prankster and moved on to the next call. The caller was a woman. Her voice was shaky. "Dispatch, please," she said. "Someone just broke into my car. They smashed the window and stole my purse. I think I see them running down the street. Come fast, please." Maggie could hear the screech of tires, the slam of a car door, a man yelling, and then, "Help me, please." The line went dead. Maggie quickly found the number on her caller ID and saw it was from a payphone at the corner of 18th and Irie Streets in Casper. She dialed the local police non-emergency line, gave them the information, and waited for them to respond. 5 minutes later, the Casper police called back. "We have nothing on a break-in or a stolen car there," the officer said. "You sure it was tonight?" "Yeah, I just got off the phone with the lady. I could still hear her purse being snatched." The officer chuckled. Maybe it was a really convincing recording, but the lady was scared. I could hear it in her voice. "Well, listen, we don't have anything like that on record, so there's nothing we can do about it." "Okay," Maggie said slowly. She knew she couldn't convince the police, not without proof. And besides, the woman probably just wanted to get her story out there. For her, it was about getting the word out, not necessarily getting the cops involved. And honestly, she thought, it's not like they would have done anything about it anyway. In Natrona County, Wyoming, where Casper is located, violent crime was about 34% lower than the national average. She moved on to the next call. The caller was a man. "Hello, 911. Is everything okay?" "What seems to be the problem?" "Everything's fine. I just want to tell you what happened to me tonight. No one's believing me, but I know what I saw." Maggie could hear the man's frustration through the phone. "I understand, sir, but if you could tell me what happened, maybe I can help you." "There was a wreck down by the railroad tracks by the old Sinclair gas station. I stopped to check it out. There was a guy in the car, and he wasn't breathing anymore. I tried to help him, but it was too late. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. It was awful. I'll never forget seeing his face. He looked like he was burned. His eyes were wide open. I want to report it. Of course. Let me get that for you. But before Maggie could write it down, the man hung up. She tried calling back, but the number was disconnected. For the rest of the night, the calls kept coming in. There was a robbery at the Loaf and Jug on South Poplar Street, a fight at the Ramada Inn on East 2nd Street. At 2:17 a.m., a caller reported a woman lying on the sidewalk on the 1600 block of North Wolcott Street. By 3 a.m., Maggie was exhausted, but even as she rubbed her tired eyes, she could hear the desperation in the voices on the other end of the line. There was a consistency to the callers, their fear, their urgency. Some of them were calling to report crimes that were happening at that very moment. Others were calling to report crimes that had already happened, crimes that had been committed years ago, decades ago. One woman called crying because she had just seen her daughter get abducted outside their home on South McKinley Street. Maggie could hear the girl screaming. The mother begged Maggie to send help. Just as Maggie reached out to grab the notepad beside her, the line went dead. The police were dispatched, but when they arrived, they found no sign of foul play. There had been no abduction. There was no trace of the girl or her frantic mother. It was after 3:30 in the morning when Maggie finally got a break. The next call was a man. "Hello, 911, he said. "Is dispatch there?" "Yes, sir." "Speaking. I've got to tell somebody, sir." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I gotta tell someone." "Please." And then the man hung up. Maggie was starting to feel claustrophobic. She got up from her chair and walked out to the hallway. Outside her door, she could hear the distant wail of sirens. Was it the call about the stabbing? Maybe. But what if it wasn't? What if the crimes she was hearing about were happening somewhere else, somewhere far away? And what if someone was watching her, waiting for her to fall asleep? Afraid to turn her back on the radio in case she missed a call, she paced the hallway, trying to calm her racing heart. It was then that the phone rang again. Maggie picked it up and asked, "Dispatch?" A woman's voice said, "Hi, dispatch, it's me. Just wanted to let you know I'm coming for you. You're next." And then she hung up. Maggie stared at the receiver in her hand. She could hear her own breathing. She could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the break room, the scurrying of mice in the walls. But she couldn't hear anything else. She put the receiver back on the hook, leaned against the wall, and closed her eyes. In the distance, she could hear the crunch of gravel under tires, the slam of a car door, footsteps on concrete. She opened her eyes and stared at the door. She could hear the doorknob turning. It was a low, metallic sound, the kind that sent shivers down her spine. She watched the door as it creaked open. She could see the darkness beyond it, the silhouette of a man standing in the doorway. He stepped inside and approached her. "Don't hurt me," she whispered, her voice cracking. She could feel her heart beating in her throat. The man loomed closer. "Don't hurt me," she repeated, her voice louder now. The man reached out and touched her shoulder. Startled, just Tom. He was her co-worker. He was the morning show host. He had to be there already. "What are you doing here, Tom?" she said, her voice trembling. "I thought you were supposed to be on air right now." "I am on air," he said, his voice confused. "I just came to get the overnight reports from you. You okay? You look awful." "I'm fine," she said, trying to catch her breath. "Just tired." "Listen, Tom, I need you to get out there and take over. I can't do this anymore." "What? Why?" "What's wrong?" "I don't know. It's just too much. These calls, they're driving me crazy." "What calls?" Tom looked confused. He gestured toward the radio. "What are you talking about?" "The radio's been off the entire time." Maggie stared at him, her mind racing. What was he talking about? Hadn't he been listening to the calls along with her? The thought struck her like a bolt of lightning. He wasn't listening to the calls. He didn't know about any of it. He didn't know that she had been taking calls all night about murders, about robberies, about abductions. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the studio window, willing herself to calm down. Taking a deep breath, she turned back to Tom and said, "I need you to call the police." Tom stared at her, his eyes wide with concern. "Are you sure? I mean, why? What's wrong?" "I'll explain later," she said. "Just call them